Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am so thrilled today to have Miss Nichole Howard with me. She's a professional branding and headshot photographer. We were just chatting, and a few things I didn't tell her. By the way, go Eagles!
Go birds.
EAGLES, go Birds! But Nicole and I also share a favorite rom-com movie, When How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which
I love that movie. Yes, I didn't know that. It's so exciting.
True, like that was my movie for like 10 years. I'm like, it's my Bible and how I live with it, but I'm so excited to have Nicole here with me so I can dip my toe into her world and get to know what she does. But Nicole, just thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh my God, I'm so happy that you had me on the show, that you're having me here. Thank you, Danielle. I
Yes.
appreciate you. And thank you for the lovely introduction. I feel like, yeah, I've been doing this for like 7 years now as a brand photographer. But before that, I was a project manager. I'm still certified in project management. I have my master's in strategic communications. So like I'm a lifelong learner and I just like am so that's why I love shows and talks like this because I also get to like meet more people and see what they love. And so this is really fun for me.
I love people who come out and are like, I'm an active learner because I'm like, it's such a beautiful practice to be a part of. Like it's not something you have to go study, but it's just something you're interested in and just going and learning about a variety of different things, whatever catches your interest. And I love when I get to hear people say they're active learners because I feel like there's not enough of it.
Yeah, and that's honestly what brought me into photography. So I feel like that makes so much sense because it's like just being curious and being open to what you're interested in will lead you down a path of like, oh, if I'm actually open to this, I'll see what happens with it and see how it all kind of comes together instead of trying to force something or, do something that, at least for me, I've always felt like the best thing to do is to follow my own curiosity and see where that leads.
I've been doing my research on you. Your camera has been your sidekick, but I would love to go back and when did photography become an interest of yours? How young was it? Because I grew up, I was like, there are no pictures of me for a certain age because I was the one who had the camera in my hands. But when did photography become your love and passion?
Wow, that's such a beautiful question. And it's really interesting because I feel like I was always somebody who saw life in pictures. I don't know if you can
Mm.
identify with that, right? And I feel like it's interesting. Like I would walk around as a young girl and I would just be like, "Oh, that's a picture." And it was before, I'm dating myself. It was way before we had phones at our fingertips that could just take that picture. And I always just saw things that way, like that interested me, and I just noticed them in the world. And my grandmother and my dad always had a camera in their hand. Like my dad, I joke, must have hours of VHS tapes in his
Gosh,
basement
yes.
that I've literally never seen, just of me and my sister growing up. Because he just always was like recording. And sometimes I don't even know what the hell he was recording, but he just was. And I think just their passion for capturing these moments and like whether or not we ever get to see them again. But like I just remember like, my grandmother having stacks of printout photographs on her kitchen table and just like literally when we would come over, she'd like have us look at them. I think that's just their passion for really capturing moments and then going back to them and reliving them kind of started to instill it with me. And then also just having that ability to kind of see things as photographs, but I think it really became like a true, like, I think, how do I say this? Really, like something I was like, I can do something with this
Yes, yeah.
is literally when I was 30 and I got a camera, a DSLR for my 30th birthday.
I am so glad I'm not the only family who we always somebody always had a camera. Like we have stacks of VHS and smaller tapes just around. I'm like, we probably should get these put on something that we can actually enjoy today and actually look back on because um we have so many incredible things as a massive family that are on those tapes, and it's one of those where I'm like
Yeah.
there's so many good memories on this that we can go back and
Yeah, I know. And I think of Clark Griswold in
yeah,
Christmas Vacation when he's
yeah,
upstairs and he's all cold in the attic and he's looking at those home videos
yes.
and it's just such a sweet moment. in that crazy movie. But it just, I feel like it's that same sentiment of like these moments you look back on and you don't realize like how powerful they are until sometimes it's years later down the road and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, I'm so grateful
Abs-
that we captured this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that that is just, I think that's just something I hope never goes away.
Absolutely. Now, you had said it, you were a project manager for years and years, and you've even brought it into your business today. What was the I'm going to go out, I'm going to do my own thing back in 2018? What was that moment that Nicole's going to go out and Nicole's going to go do her own thing, be her own boss?
I love that. It was really an evolution.
Okay.
So I would say that it started out as a curiosity. Then I
Okay.
got the camera and it started out with me just like walking around the city and using the camera. Literally, I would go on photo walks through
Yeah.
Philly, and this was back when Instagram was really just pictures.
Yeah.
Again, dating myself.
Yeah, so
But
I'm the same
I
way.
feel
I was
like
on it
it
then too.
was like it was like all about photography.
Yes.
And there would be these photographer meetups, and we would all just like walk around with our cameras, and it was like, what do you capture? And during that time, it was a very exploratory stage, and I literally just experimented so much. I think about James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he has this really beautiful like quote. I think it is. It says something about, you find your passions and your talents through experimentation and then exploitation. So you
Okay.
figure out, like, you try all the things. Like, I tried fine art, I tried family photography, I tried real estate and
Yeah.
wedding, maternity, like all of it. And then I kind of landed on brand photography, but it took me really experimenting and practicing and seeing to determine that that was where I was going to lead and end up. And I also found a mentor who worked with me and showed me the ropes and showed me it was possible.
Love
And I
that.
think that I'm so grateful to her until this day. Like, she really just opened up her book to me and opened up her pricing and opened up everything so I could be like, wow, this really is a possibility where I can support myself, and not just support myself, but support myself well, and even maybe support a family on this, which was something that I never really had in my reality
Yeah.
prior to that, when I had gone through like the traditional schooling and getting my undergrad in psychology and then getting my master's and then getting my PMP. So it was a really, I think it was just like an evolution of a lot of experimentation, and, meeting some of the right people and then taking the actions to really form beautiful relationships with those people who like really helped me see the way. And so I think, it wasn't just like one day I was just like, cool, I'm doing this. It was really an evolution over time.
I cannot shout enough from the rooftops about mentors. I'm like, whether it's a mentor in what you do or a mentor in something you have an interest in, or and it's like parallel to what you do, they're so important because it's somebody you can totally lean on and say, hey, is this a crazy idea or can you gut check me on this? And it's just such an important concept that I can't preach enough to everybody because they're so helpful down the road.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we don't realize how easily you can build a mentor relationship, and
Yeah,
how it doesn't necessarily have to be this thing where you're talking to them every week or every month,
totally.
but it could be something where you're checking in every 6 months and going to coffee, or and being really intentional about that relationship and showing them, hey, this is how I'm developing, and giving them specific tangible evidence that you're invested,
Yeah,
because then they want to invest in you. Like, anybody who takes on a mentee, like,
yeah,
they really have a passion and they want to be able to give back, and they've been successful, so they're at a point in their life when they're like, yes, like, how can I help? And
yeah,
I think if you just show like your own investment, and not just showing up like, hey, can I pick your brain?
yeah,
But you
yes.
really show like, this is the actions I'm taking, this is where I'm interested, and this is what I want to learn, and I want to show up and shadow you for free, which is literally what I did with her, just to learn how to pose people, just to learn if I liked family photography, just to learn, like, how to set up lighting. Like,
Yes.
that I think goes a really long way, right? And then they see your progression and it's a reward to them too. So the mentor mentee experience is beautiful.
And for quite some time, you were a one woman show. You've got three other incredible ladies now that work with you, but for a while, you're a one woman show, which I was like, yes, one woman show, because I'm still a one woman show. But I always have an appreciation because I'm like, you have an understand that like it's a long hours. Like as a woman show, people are like, you do all this by yourself. I'm like, you kind of have to sometimes. You have to.
Yeah.
What was that one woman show like for you?
So I think Uh, so it's really interesting. So I did it as a side hustle for a really long time while I was still working full time. And that was really when it was this one woman show. And then probably for the first year of my business, it was a one woman show. And it's a lot. I mean, luckily for me, it was something I loved to do. So getting lost in the work wasn't really an issue because I wanted to be doing it
Yeah.
and I was excited to be doing it. I do feel like towards the end there, I was definitely getting a little burnt out and I was starting to feel the effects of just trying to do it all myself
Yeah.
because I also am really ambitious and I wanted to expand and do more. So you start to realize really fast when you're doing a lot, you're like, wow, if I really do want to grow, I need to actually physically get more support to do this.
Absolutely.
You cannot do it on your own. Like all of those major powerhouse women that we see in the world, they are not doing it on their own in any way, shape, or form. They have so much help around them. And, I hired a coach that really helped me see that. And then I started to really, see what others were doing in the industry and just start to actually say, okay, like it's time to get the support and not be this person who's at midnight editing
Yeah.
photos and and trying to see like adjust the white balance in the darkness of my home. So I feel like that was definitely something that, I think you just have to learn over time and you have to see what your goals are and what you really want
Yeah.
and what what yeah, where you want to go with it.
I think
Yeah.
it's for a lot of people, it's really easy to have that moment of like, okay, it's time. I need help. I can't keep doing this. But it's hard then to look around and be like, where do I start in needing help? Like, what's the biggest area? And that's especially for myself. I'm like, I have so many different things. I'm like, do I need an editor to help me edit all this stuff so I can go and do more of this admin, or do I need something more as of an assistant to help me just be able to take that side? So it's hard to figure out where the important where the important person that you want to come in, what that first role is.
Absolutely, Danielle. So it's a really beautiful thing to expand.
Yeah.
It's also a very vulnerable thing to expand. It's hard to let go.
It's your
It's
baby.
to
It's your
talk about, harder to implement.
yeah.
And so I can't stress enough that it happens over time. And you're right, you do start to feel a tipping point in your business. And at that tipping point, you get, okay, what can I do? What can I let go of? At least this was it for me. It was
Yeah.
like, what can I let go of that I already know how to do? So if I lost that person, I would be able to take it back without a problem. And I can easily adjust or shift what they've done if I need to fix it. So I think that that was something that I was like, what are the easiest things to let go of? And just start there. And then for me was hiring a virtual assistant.
Okay.
And so, and then from there it was, okay, I'm going to get somebody to help me with my editing.
Yeah.
And then from there it was, okay, I'm going to hire, like I actually had a business coach, but then I hired a very specific business coach
Okay.
to help me with brand photography, who had literally been doing this for 18 years
Interesting.
and was in my niche, like wasn't a wedding photographer, wasn't a family photographer or like brand. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, and then listening what she did and hiring studio assistants. So it comes over time and then also listening to what do my clients need?
Yeah.
Are my clients telling me and asking me all the time, what do I wear? Should
Yeah.
I have my makeup done?
Yeah.
You know, what self-care do I need to do? How do I prepare? Are we going to be shooting in a studio? Where are we going to shoot? Like, so what are the questions that they have? And then forming strategic partnerships so that I am then aligning myself with the right people to really support my clients as well. So it kind of comes over time. And I can't stress the power of coaching. Like, it's incredibly helpful to have somebody who's already done it
Yeah.
help you lay the foundation for yourself and do it a lot faster than they did it for themselves. So it kind of goes along with the mentor mentee
Yeah. Yeah.
relationship,
Absolutely.
just maybe a little more I would say frequent, for example, like with
Okay.
coaching, I would talk to my coach like once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
I formed masterminds. And so that knowledge that helped me move faster so I could know what you said, which was, what do I do first? How do I focus my energy? What do I let go of? And how am I going to do this in a way that my nervous system will feel safe enough to let me do it?
Nervous system is firing all the time. You're like, I don't know. I don't know where we need to be going. I do want to dip the toe in deeper to your business, and you have a focus specifically on helping female entrepreneurs with their branding photography. What inspired you on top of brand photography, but helping these female entrepreneurs feel comfortable in their visuals and with their brand and their business?
So we kind of alluded to this a little bit in the beginning. And so when I first started, I tried a lot of things. But through trying all those things, what I found was that, like with fine art and branding photography, those are always two sections that made me feel the most energized and the most creative. So, like when I had my camera in my hand, I wouldn't notice the time passing. And I think some people call this being in the zone or being in a flow state or whatever you want to call it. But I was like, I just want more of that in my life.
I
And
love
so
it.
I'd
Flow
worked
state, I'm like, get me in my flow state. If I could be in it every single day, I would be so happy. I would get so much work done. It's fantastic.
Right? I know. And it's funny, I'm in human design. I don't know if you've heard of human design, but I'm a
Yes.
generator. So that is a good place for me to be.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, can I, it's like I've tried to explain to people, I'm like, it's like this like bubble kind of opens up, or this area, and you're just like gets really focused. Sorry, tangent, but I was like, yes,
I
flow
know.
state, completely understand what that is.
Well, it's important because I also feel like that's when I'm the most connected and aligned overall. And when I feel like I'm leaning into my purpose, which is a really powerful place to be. And connecting with men is great. Like I've worked with men and, that's all great. But then taking it even further from brand photography and working with female entrepreneurs is like, I really felt like I could connect with them because we shared similar goals and interests. Like they were all ambitious. They all had a dream and something they wanted to really achieve. And I knew I could identify with them and also help them feel at ease about the process of stepping in front of the camera. Because many people and women know that, like, it's important to build my brand and be visible, but I don't love stepping in front of the camera because
Yep.
I have all these things that my mind is telling me is wrong with me.
Uh,
And that is amplified when I put a lens on them. So, like for me, when I had so many women telling me this, I could easily like empathize with them and I think help them feel more comfortable so then they could feel more comfortable on camera and then feel more empowered to like step into their power. And if I can have just a fraction of influence on some of these women's lives. Like some of them are authors, some of them are lawyers, some of them are therapists, right? And I think about some of the other trailblazers, and while some of the women I've worked with aren't necessarily these women yet, I think about, Oprah, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Sarah Blakely.
yeah.
Like those women, right, have done so much. They're so amazing and they've just trailblazed the way for so many of us. And I'm like, and these women I'm working with are like also following in those footsteps, right? They're also trailblazers in their own way. And so if I can just be a little part of telling their story and helping them do that and helping them feel confident to do that, like that feels really good.
While we're on it, I'd love just to pick your brain, and like when you do get in these environments where, clients are like, "Ugh, I don't, what do I do in front of the camera, Nichole? Like, how do you get people more comfortable? What are your tips and tricks that you pull out of your bag to posing or whatever it is, just to make sure they feel a little bit more comfortable and safe in front of the camera?"
So I think it's like identifying with someone as a person first, always.
Okay.
So it's like starting there and starting with empathy.
Mhm.
So acknowledging that their feelings, whatever they are valid,
Yeah.
right? So start there. And then you say, okay, I get you're not going to feel comfortable. Guess what? I didn't feel comfortable for a really long time in front of the camera. And sometimes I still don't. But it's also something we can work on with practice and with help from an expert. So let me help you.
Yeah.
and starting there. And then, guiding them through the process and kind of saying, okay, like these are some poses that I know, and literally showing them how to pose. Like there are certain things you can actually do with your body, with your
Yeah.
hands, you know,
Yes.
to make you feel more at ease and make you feel like, oh, I look really good on camera. I mean, there are several, I can't do them visually here because it's a podcast and it's
People
audio.
wouldn't really understand as we're doing I can
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I do have a TikTok that's full of posing
yes.
videos. I do talk about posing on my
Yeah.
Instagram, but I think that also showing up as an expert in that field helps women feel confident that then when they do work with me, that I'm going to guide them through that process.
Yes.
So they know that, oh, okay, like Nichole knows what she's doing. She's illustrating it here. She'll illustrate it with me. And then we're going to laugh about it if it's weird for a second. Like, we're not going to make it feel like this really stuffy situation. We're just going to have fun with it. And like, if one pose doesn't work, cool. It's digital age, doesn't matter. We'll throw it away. Nobody's ever going to see it.
I've always loved people who say, "Oh, I'm not photogenic." You are photogenic. You've just had a bad
Mhm.
experience in front of the camera that has allowed you to
Exactly.
that you are not photogenic. I'm like, everybody has a beautiful smile. Everybody is great in front of the camera. You just have to work with somebody that is making you feel comfortable. So it's so important, those environments, I do believe. I'm like, I'll stand and do whatever you want in front of the camera and smile and whatever funny pose you want me to do. It's just about feeling comfortable in those environments. And I think it's so underrated.
100%. And also, like, there are other aspects that will help you feel confident too, like what you do prior to the shoot.
Yes.
So I talk about this a lot, like the self-care you're putting in prior to the shoot, whether you're having your hair done. Like when I get a blowout, I feel like a goddess.
Yeah.
So like I encourage women to do the things that make them feel really good. I have a stylist on my team. I have a makeup artist on my team, and those are women that I've like specifically hired because one, they match my energy and passion for making women feel good in front of the camera, but also because I know that that's going to help these women feel good
Yeah.
about the final result, like period. Like these
Absolutely.
women know how to like pick clothes that are going to taper to your body in a way that you wouldn't because you're not the expert in it, maybe.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Like I know for me, I'm like, oh wait, what do I wear? What am I supposed to be doing? And yeah. So somebody will answer that for you, and then you'll feel really good about the final result because
I
you've
love
had all this help along the way.
I would love to hit on just how you believe that branding photography and what you do, how it can impact these female entrepreneurs, their brand and their ability to bring in clients. Like, what is the importance of how having really powerful and strong imagery?
I love that. So let's take it a step back before imagery.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about statistics first.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So this personal branding sector, just in general, when I first started, it was a much smaller niche, and people weren't really talking about personal branding in general. People understood the concept of a brand, of course, but personal branding really wasn't a big topic of conversation. And I think there was a major shift during 2020 around the time of the pandemic where we kind of saw people go really massively online because we had to.
100%.
And that shift also occurred a lot with women leaving the workforce and their traditional 9 to 5 roles and capacity. I think the statistics say that in 2019, 29% of female owned businesses were new and female owned. And then in 2020, 47 were female owned. So, like, basically, the number of businesses jumped to like a significant amount, like almost 20% in
Yes.
just a year, and like, and how many female owned businesses were starting.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of women doing this, which is amazing, but
Absolutely.
you also need to show up and be visible, right, to make it lasting,
Yes.
right? And so personal branding is a way to do that. It's a way to differentiate yourself amongst the people who are out there doing this too. So I love the Harvard Business Review. I can't speak right now. Harvard Business Review
It's
has a
hard.
great
Yeah, I'm like, what is pick a harder freaking accent? I'm like,
yeah,
Harvard Business too many R's.
Yes, it's yeah, it should just be like HBR.
Yeah.
Uh, so they have a really great definition of personal branding, and they say it's this intentional and strategic practice where you define and express your own value.
Yeah.
And that value can be whether it's in your relationships, at work,
Yeah.
or in your business.
Yeah.
And so, no matter what, whether we like it or not, when you start a business, when you're out in the world, you have a personal brand.
Yes.
Beautiful thing about that is we get to choose whether to be passive or active in the participation of defining what that brand and what our value actually is, and not letting society decide. I mean, we can talk about that as women, right? That would be a whole other pigeonhole to go down, but
Yes.
how society tells us what our value is,
Yeah.
right? But we actually, with personal branding, can tell that story and own it and be visible in a way that others will see you and you want to be seen.
Yes.
And so personal branding photography is that tool to help you be intentional and authentic and define that value of what others see in you. So, and then when your second part of your question, right, which I think is really, really important, is how can that significantly impact their ability to attract their ideal clients?
Yeah.
So, taking it one step further, now that you are visible and being seen in the way that you want to be seen and not in the way that others are defining things for you. So, when people talk about you when you're not in the room, they're not just thinking about you in terms of the value that they think you can bring to the table,
Yeah.
but they're thinking about you in terms of the value you want to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And that influences how you get the ideal clients and opportunities that you want.
I love that. I want to just take all of that and put it on the wall somewhere so I can just read that every single day. 'Cause that was phenomenal. Um, I absolutely love that, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's so important. I love those data points and how much now we are seeing females out there and being bosses. I'm like, claps all around for everybody. I'm like, it's so important for all of us.
It really, really is. And I think it's definitely something that I want to see more of,
100%.
and really more women stepping into their power, because also there are significant positive impacts on the economy when women do that. I mean, we saw that at a very, very macro level with Taylor Swift and Beyonce over the
Yeah.
summer. It literally lifted the economy.
And Barbie. It
Yeah,
was like
and Barbie, it
everything. I was
lifted the
like,
actual economy. Like that to me is so powerful, because when women go out, and women are the spenders, we go out and we invest back into the community. It's fascinating. There is a statistic I read, and I hope I get it right. But I'm like, it was a little while ago that I read it, but I think that women spend, I think we spend at least I think it's like of every dollar we make, we invest 90 cents back into
okay.
our economy,
Yeah.
versus males who are like, I think 60 or 70 cents or something like that.
Wow.
So women really do have such an influence on, what happens in the world, and, you know, what's happening, whether or not we, go into a recession or we don't,
Yes.
right? So I
Yes.
think we have a lot more power than we realize. And so the more women are out there, the more women that are in business and investing in themselves and making these choices for their communities, I mean, it's just going to help us all rise together.
I want to hit on networking really quickly because on top of everything that you do working with female entrepreneurs and in branding photography, like you are out in the community a lot. You are doing a lot of networking, you're doing a lot of speaking. Can we just hit on, from your perspective, the importance of networking? I have screamed at the top of my lungs for years how important it is on LinkedIn, but also just out in person, the importance of networking and being out and visible to everybody.
I love that. So I think networking itself, for some people,
Yes.
can sound like a dirty word. So I think I like to call it relationship building,
Okay.
because that's truly what it is.
Yeah.
You're not just going out there and spraying and praying, like basically like taking your business card and putting it in like one of those, I'm like imagining a little gun where it just like shoots off like
I
rapid fire
was
into
like,
the
what is it?
air. You know what I
The
mean?
money guns where you just see them and
Yeah, like that. No, that's not working. Okay.
I love that.
Networking is actually more about building quality relationships with the people that you want to be associating with and talking to. So it doesn't have to be this challenging, onerous task that we add to our list. It can actually be a really fun activity.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did to, you know, get out there more and make sure that I was making building these relationships and making these
Yeah.
connections I wanted to make was, besides just going out there and being in the rooms and talking to one or two people, not trying to just spray and pray, like literally trying to really get to know a few people in the room, is I created my own events. I
Okay.
said, I want to know, what other female entrepreneurs in my community care about.
Yeah.
I want to talk to them about the real stuff and have real conversations. And so I started events they're called Radiant Rise, and they usually have a panel and a subtopic. And
Love that.
they're all female entrepreneurs or business women that are very passionate that usually come, and we connect. And it's always a really beautiful experience. And that to me was like probably one of the best things I've done in my business so far, was just start those events, because I get to connect with like-minded women, the people who I want to
Yeah.
be talking to, and really build relationships with them
Yeah.
in a meaningful way, which I think is truly the power of networking. Right? It's not just about like getting in a room and handing out your business card. It's about, building meaningful relationships that are going to last a long time.
I love that. And I love that you went and did your own events because it's similar to what I'm doing here. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go and learn. I'm going to go reach out to these people and have these conversations. I wish I was doing it in person, but I love that you're doing those and those panels have their own very specific topics and you're bringing in people. I think it's so powerful, that venue, and doing it that way. I think a lot of people get very nervous in these situations. I'm an introvert. I don't know about you, but I am like, I having big groups like that, I get so nervous. So having something very specific and smaller to me is
Mhm.
like talking to those one to two people is something I feel comfortable with as well, instead of the spray and pray method.
Yeah, and honestly, stepping into a room of 200 people is overwhelming,
Mm.
even for women and people who may be extroverted. I think sometimes we put these labels on ourselves because, we feel a little self-conscious.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that you are unable to do these things. It's just that's an intimidating space to be in. Actually the events that I created were intimate for that reason. I think I have about 30 people max in there usually. And I like that because then you actually get to talk to people more. And you get to talk to more people because it's a smaller space, it's more intimate space. And then like even the last one, we all got to introduce ourselves. So you actually are getting to know, oh, who do I want to talk to in this room? Because a lot of times, like, yes, there's 200 people in the room, but there's maybe five that you really want to talk to.
Yeah.
So I recognize, I acknowledge myself. If I had to label it as an ambivert, I kind of sway extroverted,
Depends on the
introverted.
day.
I need to recharge after I go out and socialize a lot, but I also do get energy from being in the spaces where I feel really supported and just, yeah, where you feel really good. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it definitely just depends, but there are ways to do it that you can feel good.
Yeah.
So it's the doing it virtually also is a beautiful mechanism. I have a podcast as well, and that also
Yeah.
serves as a way to network. So you're doing it. You're
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
appreciate it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it though. I think any venues to be able to get out and meet people, whatever in whatever ways you feel comfortable, but at the same time, I'm like, I like to push myself out of the comfort zone, but I'm like, anytime you can possibly do it, it's a great way to do it that you feel comfortable.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Nichole, my last question for you is just what inspires you?
Oh wow, that's a big question, Danielle. I think if I had to choose just one thing, then I would say just I read a ton of personal development. And so listening to that and listening to like I just listened to like a Mel Robbins podcast, like that really helps me stay motivated to keep going and to remind myself like this is all worth it. And like seeing the results is
Yeah.
always so powerful. Like seeing the women that I work with, like using the photos, being successful with them, putting them on their books. Like I just found out I'm gonna be featured in USA Today for, one of the images that I took of a client because they're gonna be in USA Today. Like that is so cool to me, right? So I think those things, like those little successes, help push me forward. Listening to personal development, like helps to keep me in a positive mindset and pushing me forward. It keeps me inspired. So, yeah.
I love that. Mel Robbins can like kick your ass in one podcast episode and get you like amped up to take on the rest of the day where you're like, okay, yep, I'm ready. Thanks, Mel. I'm great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I love that because sometimes you need that. Like you need to shift your energy. And so everybody knows what they need to do to shift. Well, maybe not, but I know what I need to do to shift my energy and when I need to make decisions that are positive for me, my life, my business, and what I really want to achieve. And so sometimes it's just as simple as listening to a podcast.
Nichole, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and letting me dive into your world and your business and what you're doing. I so appreciate it. And I just can't thank you enough.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that I could be here today and have this talk with you.
Yeah, if you guys do not follow Nichole, she's got posing tips, tricks on her Instagram, on her TikTok. But you can see all the beautiful work that she does as well. So please, all of her socials are going to be linked down below. Nichole, just thank you so much again. But as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.